Welcome back, everybody. It's been a couple weeks. We're excited to knock the dust off here on the Mostly Business Show. We have a lot to talk about today. As promised, we'll be hitting some of the big news and some of the little news as well. Ryan, how you doing today?
I'm good. I was talking to you guys before this, but I've had just a really busy day, full of meetings and things going on. But overall, I have like the perfect amount of busyness, I feel like, at the moment in my life.
Yeah.
And for the longest time, because I felt like for the longest time I was way too busy. Then I wasn't busy enough, and I was getting kind of like comfortable being not busy.
Yeah.
And right now I have like a really nice balance. So life's good.
Yeah. I feel the same way with the stuff I'm doing. I've gotten a lot more hands-on working with clients and doing some things behind the scenes and really enjoying that. Working on some new LinkedIn campaigns and stuff like that. But still trying to find that right balance. And I think I'm at it of making sure that like I'm not doing too much of that stuff. So trying to be selective about who I work with and not take on too much and, have enough time to go out in the middle of the day and mow the lawn if I want to.
Perfect, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not busy enough, Ryan. I'm kind of the way you were earlier. So if I have a "will work for food" sign behind me during this show, you'll understand why.
Yeah.
I actually way too much free time. I'm down to about 10 hours a week at the most right now. So
of work.
Yeah.
Damn. I mean, being working for yourself like we all do.
Yeah.
You always have those ebbs and flows. And that's why one of the things that I've talked to like clients about and had to learn the hard way myself about, like, you just can never have enough for the rainy day. And like that, there's a point where like maybe you have enough. So there, you can't take it to extremes. But what I've seen happen in people's businesses is that they don't think that the rainy day is going to come.
Mm-hmm.
And then sales slows down and they don't have a leg to stand on, and they're like my dad's business when I was like 20 closed because of that. And that's oversimplifying it a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, like that's what happened. Always piling money into trying to get to the next level, but never realizing that like the foundation's not strong enough because you need a war chest to make sure that you get through any sort of downtime. And I know a lot of people are dealing with that right now with stuff that's going on with the economy, and a lot of businesses and people I've talked to are seeing a lot of things with sales slowing down as their prospects are a little slower to make decisions right now because of what's going on economically, politically, all that kind of stuff. And so, anybody who has kept their war chest intact is probably not too afraid about it. But anybody who's been riding the line the whole time and having that mentality of like, we got to be aggressive and keep investing. And then the next thing, once we get over this hump, then we'll be able to build up that reserve that we need. And that can really only work if you have external funding or if the rainy day never comes. But
yeah. I was fortunate enough in the last year because when I said I didn't have, I got comfortable not doing as much. It was like a lot of it was intentional. I would say the first 6 months were intentional, where I was working little amount because I just wanted a break, and then I didn't figure out exactly what my next step would be, and that was honestly huge for me. And then then it took a few months to like actually get myself to get out of that though. That was the hard part, is I was like used to like not having a whole lot going on, and like a handful of clients. Handful of things I could be pretty high touch with, but it's not a huge ask.
Yeah.
Then I had a couple months where I was like, damn, I really, I don't really need to, but like, if I'm going to start, I need to like, I got to stop bullshitting. And then that happened kind of in the fall. I was like picking that up.
And that good life.
Yeah, it was great, man. I was like half as, I got to spend more time with my kids. I got to be taking people to, do things. I got more time to just chill, spend on myself.
Yeah.
And then I was like, all right, well, let's start the next chapter. And that's kind of where we're at now. So things are going all right.
Yeah.
Well, when you get used to chilling, it's hard to go back. Even a day like today, for example, I got this show at 10, and then and then a 4-hour break in one of our LinkedIn clients, Josh, and that's my entire day. So I'm going to enjoy a 4-hour well-deserved break after this show. So it's
That's nice, man. Well,
yeah.
very good. Well, I promised everybody I'd be sharing some of my thoughts today on some of the stuff going on, macroeconomics and tariffs and all that kind of stuff in the Substack message that we sent out today, which is where I share a lot of my thoughts and musings and strategies and updates, tips, tricks. And I'm looking for that right now so that I can make sure I hit everything I promised I would hit today. And I talked about this stuff in a message, I don't know, a week or so ago too. And this was even before the tariff stuff happened, but just about how a lot of people are seeing a lot of the buzzword is uncertainty right now in their markets and in the economy and in their marketing and sales and everything else, and what their prospects are telling them is a lot of the same stuff. And so what can we do about it is really the thing. And what kind of strategies can we use to leverage this to our benefit? And big picture, here's a couple thoughts, and then we'll open this for discussion for everyone to chime in. Like we've talked about many times over the last couple of years or even more, you can't let what's going on externally affect what you're doing in your business and let it, paralyze you or anything like that. But honestly, I don't have any clients that are at that point. I don't have anybody who's like, locked themselves in a closet yet. And so I don't think we need to dwell on that too much. But the thing is people are saying a lot of things like, we're not getting people aren't moving forward at the rate that we need them to, and maybe in a lot of ways the same marketing that used to work for us isn't working as well now. And so what I'm finding in talks with a lot of people and seeing out there is that with all this stuff, you're going to have people giving you those excuses. And I think that right now, honestly, the number one thing anybody can be doing is to get more aggressive with volume and ramp up. And so the people that we're working with any of our clients that are implementing our LinkedIn system, for example, I have a call with a lot of our clients tomorrow, and I'm going to be talking to them about increasing volume. Because if you're, in the past, if you were able to hit your sales numbers by reaching out to 100 new prospects a month and getting that 100 prospects a month turns into 10 phone calls, and one of them becomes a client, and you've got a predictable funnel then for bringing on one new client a month, for example. Right now, if people aren't moving forward as fast, you might need to have a lot more conversations.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this day and age of AI and automation and efficiency and leverage, a lot of people that's kind of the opposite of what you're hearing nowadays. Is like, we might all need to put in more work right now to get the results that we need, and really to have a lot more conversations. Because let's say now, if instead of 1 out of 5 prospects decides to do business with you, a 20% close rate, what if it's 5%? Or whatever it might be. You understand the example that I'm putting forward here. So you might need to connect with 200 or 300 prospects every month, and you might need to have 20 or 30 conversations a month to get the client that you need. And that's one way to look at it. So sometimes this stuff is a numbers game. Also, I'm speaking in broad generalities, and everybody's business is different. But there's more to it that I want to touch on, but I'll let you jump in, Ryan, because I saw you itching there.
Well, no, it's the what I've seen was I've heard the same thing. Unfortunately, a lot of the people that I'm working with, other people that help businesses through tough situations. So this is not the worst time in the world for them, which is great. But what I've seen for people and this is because the tariff thing is really come to a head the last week or so, but in the economy has really but it's been a focus over the last few months anyway, really since the actual election. So the people that I've known that I've talked to that are having a lot of success still, are doubling down on really two areas. And one is like you mentioned, like having conversations, but not even just having conversations with strangers. Like you should be reaching out to people to try to earn business with strangers, but revisiting old contacts and just having conversations with them because they're getting referrals out of those conversations, or just reminding people what you do and reconnecting with either old clients or old prospects or people that used to work for you or work with you or you worked for, whatever. And then
like a re-engagement.
Well, yeah, essentially, but not, I wouldn't even consider it like that. More personal now, almost like networking. Like you just get people on a call, and talk to them and see where that turns into.
Yes.
But the other thing in terms of like at a larger scale for larger businesses or personalities that seem to be doing really well right now are those who are putting out a lot of content, because and I'll explain why in a second, but putting out a lot of content, thought leadership content, sharing their opinions on everything. And the reason both of those things are working at the moment is because I think people are not hesitant to spend money. They're just really careful on who they're spending it with, and building relationships and building trust and leveraging existing trust and existing relationships, I think is a really valuable thing for people to do right now. Because the chances of you finding someone that doesn't know who you are, that just comes across you and then wants to work with you at this moment without knowing much about you, is lower than, it's not impossible, but it's lower than it had been, right? And because people are still spending money, nobody's like completely panicked and stopped doing anything. I haven't said nobody, but most people haven't, right? And they're gonna turn to the like trusted faces, and some of that is like new marketing and new things that you need to do, putting yourself out there, creating content, growing your network. Some of it is just engaging people that you've worked with before, people that you've known. So that's my advice for people through this. There's a lot of, like, again, said the buzzwords uncertainty. Certainly, right, nobody knows what's going to happen. Hopefully this all, like, things get renegotiated and things get figured out, and it turns into like just a couple months scare more than
that's what's going to happen.
I think so too.
I think that the probability is over 50% that's what's going to happen. I had a conversation with a friend who has their annual program launch in May, and is a little nervous. And I said, well, just be glad that this tariff stuff happened this week instead of a month from now. And I told him, I think that in a few weeks it'll be blown over and we'll be talking about different stuff then, and so that's why this stuff, any of these short-term things that happen in the economy get people riled up. People see their 401ks going down and getting, people understandably get scared of that. And that, that happens every once in a while. What is it? Every 8 years on average or something like that, we get hit with some sort of a downturn for some sort of a reason, whether it's banks collapsing, COVID, tariff. Welcome to the club.
But this because it's self-inflicted as far as I'm concerned. It's the thing like the housing market in 2008, that happened for various reasons, but it wasn't. This is a little self-inflicted for me. And I think it generally affects, right to the bottom line of a lot of households right now, including mine. I'll give you a very short example. At my age, I started to take a little bit out of my retirement, and it really makes me think now as I'm losing, a lot of money right now. So
it's the same thing I've told my mom recently is that, like, she's how old is my mom? I don't know. She's 70, something like that. No, that's crazy. She's 60. I'm getting way too in the weeds on this. 63, 64, something like that. Anyway, so she's like, she gets affected when the market goes down because of where her retirement funds are at. And I'm like, if you're that close to retirement, you should not have exposure to the market like this. You need to have a much more conservative portfolio. What are you doing? So when I hear on the media is disgusting right now in the news. Like, we have a bunch of people that almost seem gleeful to see the market going down because they don't like the guy that's in office, which is disgusting in my opinion. Nonetheless, what we have is also people who are like, the message that you see on like CNBC where they're trying to be negative when they're talking about people's people are, who are, what do you say to somebody was going to retire and now they see that, maybe they can't retire now. I would say they need to find a new financial advisor if they were that exposed to the market within any time frame close to retirement. Like, that's 100%. Just a bad.
100. That
those people know that who are on TV, but nonetheless, they still want to send those narratives out to get everybody scared and freaked out and, have something negative to say. But,
Well,
a lot of people too, they could be, for example, I'm just making this up right now, could be 5 years away from retirement. So for me, like when I knew I'd be taking the money, I literally just started taking money 3 months ago. And for me, I only went on to a portion of my overall 401k, took a portion of it out, went very conservative, like mostly bonds and things like that. And even that is going down, but not near the rate of my more risky stuff that I'm not going to take for another 6-7 years. So
yeah, there you go.
you know,
Everyone's in a different spot though. And I acknowledged on our last show a couple of weeks ago, I think that, like, I know a winery that I support who, the tariffs are impacting that business very much right now, and blah, blah, blah. So there's a big change happening. But big picture, it's like, is this going to create an outcome eventually in the country where maybe manufacturing comes back, maybe the middle class is in a better spot long term, all those kinds of things. So we're trying to make a massive change to the economy, trade relations, and all those other things. Like, it's not going to be pain free, you will say. So let's just all hope that. Let's all hope a couple of weeks from now everything's turned back around, right?
Yeah.
Well, think about it like this. The way, well, hold on real quick, Dave. One of the things that I think is, if you think about the last time we took a massive downturn was around COVID. Like a one that this sharp. You know what I mean? Like we had some, and I know I talked to people that had during that time, because we had just finished up our launch. I remember, like, a product launch. And I remember being like, thank God, like, that this happened before that. Like, we're done before that.
Right.
But then again, people that were stressing about it that had a May launch had one of their best launches ever.
Right.
A couple months later, because people had kind of like the fear had subsided some, not at all. Like, there was like real fear, but and I anticipate this. So like this can turn around. And to your point, Tim, we're making a conscious decision that has affected the market. But at the same time, one thing that I think this is a little different than like the real estate issue in 2008 and a couple other and bank issues is this can be corrected relatively quickly with negotiation. And so like it can be, I think it could also be turned around faster. And I think that's actually part of the plan. And even if we do, I'm not going to get like super political in this, because like, I'm not a big fan of really any politicians, to be honest. But even if like we are going to make a change to bring back manufacturing jobs, we're going to do things that like Trump and the current leadership wants to do. My gut feeling is like, even if that's a serious change they want to make in the country, like Josh, you mentioned, it is a big change. I think the chances of that happening this quickly, like, I don't think they anticipate, because that's like the main criticism, even from people on the right, is like, this is sharp. You know what I mean? Like, it should be a slower rollout. And I think that's going to happen. To me, I think this is a negotiation thing. It's going to, they're going to figure something out short term that's going to correct the markets and correct some of the issues that are currently happening. And then it'll be a slower rollout. And there will be people that love it and people that hate it. And I'm not going to judge people either way. I'm, on that, because I think there's valid points on both sides.
Either the stock market's going to rebound and we're going to have much better deals with all these countries that we trade with, and it's going to be a really good thing, or we're going to end up in a war with China. It's going to be one of those two. So we'll see which one it is.
Fortunately, I think it's the latter, but we'll see.
Oh man, we got to put you on CNBC with all this negativity. You'd fit right in.
Well, my feelings. There's certain people I won't name that,
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. What Ryan said about building trust is the thing that I wanted to touch on next. So it's a numbers game, but also I think you have to lean more into spending time with prospects, building those relationships. And this is really the bigger thing that I wanted to talk about what do you do in your marketing and where you spend your time. So I talked about having more conversations, but also like more conversations that aren't necessarily sales pitches. So like, obviously, it's self-serving, but our LinkedIn system is built on relationship building. So it's really one of the main things that differentiates it from a lot of the other things that you might see on LinkedIn, where you've got people who just connect with you and are like pitching immediately. for many, many years now, we've been teaching a process that is more about building relationships, positioning yourself as a leader in your industry and in the eyes of your prospects, and building rapport over time, and then utilizing that and leveraging that to get your foot in the door at a higher percentage than you otherwise would if you weren't playing the long game and were just like pitching people and connecting and stuff. And that stuff is like, I think, more important now than ever. And so, you know, if you're not doing that, you should be doing that. But it means like more conversations without pitching. I love what Ryan said about rekindling old relationships, revisiting old contacts. But like more tactically, some of the things I'm thinking about are things like organizing roundtables, right? Inviting prospects into conversations that aren't just like you telling them about your services, but finding creative ways to like invite them into a small group Zoom call where you're going to bring like a handful of other people in your industry together to like share what's going on right now, and like run some campaigns built around that. Because I think the results that you're going to see from the old fashioned kind of, it's not old fashioned, it's like, you know, over the last decade kind of marketing of like, let's build like these funnels that are like, let's get people to opt in for this ebook, and then let's work them through this email sequence and drive them into a sales conversation, is going to be less effective. And so in that, it's not to say don't do that, but like you got to build into that, like, how do we make this more human? And that might not be super scalable, but you just have to spend more time on it. And I think that that's, for most people, one of the things that's going to work well. There's some other cool stuff that I'm looking at right now, like to send personalized videos to prospects you connect with. So like if you connect with somebody, instead of just like sending them your stock messages, like what if you put in the time to send them a little video, you know, that says like, hey, whatever their first name is, it's really good to connect with you. You know, I'm really trying to take the time to get to know the people I'm connecting with. You know, would love to have a conversation sometime if you're open to it, or whatever the thing is that you want to invite them to, right? So like roundtable idea, things like inviting prospects to be interviewed. You know, if you have a podcast or anything like that, or start pumping out more content, like Ryan said. And one easy way to put out more content is to invite your prospects to be a part of it. Say like, hey, I'm doing a blog post next week on X, Y, and Z, and want to know if I could get a quote from you on this question here. And, you know, I'll link back to your website if you're interested in giving me some feedback. And most people don't get asked to do that stuff very often. And so whether you're interviewing someone on a podcast or asking them to be featured in a blog post or whatever it might be, those are all like different types of ways to try and engage and get in with people. Yeah, so those are some of the kind of specific thoughts that I wanted to share on that. You guys had anything to add to that?
Well, one thing I had to add to it, I want to give you an example here that I was literally just doing some LinkedIn work before our call. And first of all, I'm going to totally agree, Josh, with what we talked about here and what Ryan talked about with, you know, building things, building relationships. I love the idea of sending a little personal video. I want to give you the opposite. So someone just sent me something, hope I'm doing well, and I want to hear everything that's going on at your winery and my personal packaging needs. They specialize in high quality labels, corrugated boxes, flexible packaging. Would you be open to a call? Here's my calendar right away. So this is a person I've never met. And I just want to give, I always love to give bad examples. That's just a terrible example of greeting somebody, telling them, thinking they know what I need, booking a phone call. So let's go with the Ryan, Josh, slowly building something. Just wanted to share that. Always those examples. Just I personally, I just can't even imagine writing a stranger and telling them all what I think their needs are and asking them for a meeting initially before we've even said hello. How are you? Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
No,
That is like the number one faux pas. I had one the other day that was very direct to the point, and he said, Josh, Ralph Leonard of Live Good, a wholesale membership club. Take a look at this, with a link to his website. And that was
I kind of like that though.
Short and to the point, and but very direct.
Well, it was Ralph Leonard, though. I mean, he can do that, obviously.
Yeah.
It was the man himself.
Yeah. So it's a little different from Ralph Leonard. So
Right, exactly. All right. So we've solved all the tariff problems and all that, and if there's more to talk about on that, we certainly can beat that horse a little bit longer. But Ryan, I am really interested in what you've been doing to create an AI bot of yourself.
All right, yeah, I'm interested in it too because it's fun. It's been fun. So here's where it started. Let me tell you about it. So I put this on a list of things we could talk about for everyone. It was like, but I didn't have any details. I'm working with a client that is we're trying to keep the business intentionally lean, but there's courses involved in programs. So, but there's only so much time this person has to do coaching and to like for high touch stuff. So I was like, well, how would we build a bot that could act actually like you and give really good advice? And
Yep.
now there's certain ways you can do that. And what I did, I was like, let me test it on myself because I was wanting help to have like a sounding board of somebody to give myself advice, but that actually who understands me. And then I could use this for a lot of purposes. And I'll talk about how I've used it so far. So here's what I did. I took 8 assessments. So I took 8. You don't have to do this many, but I took 8 assessments. I took the Colby assessment.
Well, what have
already
you been
did.
busy lately? You've been doing every assessment that exists.
Well, I had an old assessment. Josh paid for this one years ago. So I have the old Colby assessment that I took. Then I took the Enneagram and the IVQ, which is attached to like the Enneagram, an Adobe Creative test, some Big 5 personality tests. Oh my gosh. I don't know, a handful of others. And so I took those. And there's what's interesting is every time I took one, I would add the results into kind of like a chat GPT interface that I was working with and ask like predict my scores before I tell you them. And it started getting damn like super accurate. Like the more it knew, predict what I was going to get. So then I took these things and I plugged them in. There's 8 assessments. So 8 like reports that they spit out. I then took all of those, put them into ChatGPT and created a super long prompt that's basically like, you're a professional at synthesizing different test results for personality tests, core competency tests, whatever, and creating like narratives about like the person is. I could share it if at any point we want to share the prompt, I will. Because here's the reason why I wanted to do this is I jumped a little ahead. I think personality tests are flawed, and I think like competency tests and strength finders tests, all of the big ones, are flawed because they're like, they ask you 40 questions. There's no way they know that much about you. But I think if you take 8 of them and you have an AI tool connect dots between all of your answers and compare all of your results to compare and contrast all your results together, that you can create a relatively accurate profile of who you are. So the Enneagram might mean people get really obsessed with this, but there's like, areas in each of them that you're like, well, that's not exactly me. So it's like, how do I create something that is exactly me? Plugged it in, told it to make connections between all of the tools, had this like, it was probably a 2-page long prompt. And it spit out a 20, and I used this deep research function in ChatGPT. It'll take like 20 minutes on something. And I think the free versions get like 1 or 2 a month or something, but I have the paid version, so I can just use it whenever. And I had it create this long ass thing. It spit out a 20-page document about who I am, and how I respond to things I'm good at, things I'm bad at, things I value, things I don't value, ways I like to be talked to, ways I like, basically completed a complete profile of like how I act and how I think.
Wow.
And then I created a custom GPT for it. So now I have this like Ryan clone, is what I call it, that I can ask advice for. So first thing I just had, and here's some like ways I've been using it and why I think it could be valuable for people. My wife and I, we have 4 children. We've talked about it a bunch. My youngest is going to turn 1 at the end of this year.
Wow.
I mean, not at the end of this year, at the end of this month.
Wow.
I know, it's crazy, isn't it? And so that every time that happens, we're like, okay, we need to stop like being lazy with the excuse of that we have a baby. You know what I mean? Like we have a baby, the first few months are really hard. Then you kind of like are dealing with how to have 4. What a year, we're figuring it out. So I was like, we need to start creating like healthier habits. And I just wanted, this is like an easy, small stress test. I was like, and I asked this ChatGPT, I was like, given what you know about me, give me a custom health plan of how I could get started. And then like it went into this whole big spiel of how Brian, you're really good at like when you have momentum, and you're really good at starting fast. And if you keep momentum, you can like basically be a beast at things, but it can teeter off. So you need to have constant wins. And it gave me this long thing.
Hmm.
And then it gave me this plan of how to like slowly build better habits into my life in a way that fits me. Right.
Hmm.
And so far it's worked.
Cool.
It's only been a couple weeks. I've done it every day the way it's told me to do. And
Yeah.
then I'm using it for like evaluating opportunities when clients come on board.
It's
You know,
not
right
telling
now,
you to stop drinking wine, is it?
no, it
Right.
didn't tell me to do any of that. It's basically telling me like,
Drink more
how
water.
yeah. So like, if it's the way I'm viewing it is, if I could recreate myself that has all of the knowledge that AI has access to,
Sure.
so a better version of myself, almost like a therapist, a personal
Yeah.
trainer, a business coach,
Yeah.
to give me advice, that should be valuable. And
So how's your client going to do this? Is she going to take a bunch of her old trainings and stuff and load them all in there to give it the learning that it needs to then create the client bot that is going to be this online representation of her, and then her clients can like ask it questions?
Well, yeah. So one of the ways that we're considering using it is inside of a course, like
Yeah.
her courses are in Kajabi, and Kajabi has
Mhm.
acquired like a chatbot tool called
Yeah.
Creator.io. And so Creator.io can, since it's built with Kajabi in mind, can access all of your Kajabi files and videos and transcripts.
Right.
She's also written a book. She also has like a brand guide that was put together by a branding agency. You
Right.
plug all of that information in to a custom GPT thing, or like there's a couple ways you can do it. And then you should get a pretty good representation, especially with books, because books can emulate writing styles. The book she actually wrote instead of
Cool.
like had someone write for her. So
Yeah.
emulate writing style, emulate decision
Yeah.
making. And then the way we want to use it is we'll
Yeah.
have people go through a lesson, and then we'll ask them to do an assignment and submit it to the bot for feedback. They'll get customized feedback from this bot that knows all of the course material in and out, this person's personality, how they talk, and then it's going to automatically prompt them to then share that and share like any findings that they have from it in different areas. So like one of them is going to be like a community that's built for course members. So like that they can like, hey, great, here's advice. Here's what all of this means together. And then by the way, please go share this in the group to let everyone know and then that just builds some sort of like engagement loop with people, so they get personalized feedback without needing all of that, and then without like us needing to spend as much one-on-one time. Now I think like right now we're going to start with very specific examples, like ask it these questions, so
I like
submit
that.
this information. So it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
But the first group that goes through this is going to be considered a beta or like group anyway. So we're going to let them know that like, let us know what you think about this. So I'm still working on it, but I wanted to create a version of myself. And so far it's been good.
Well, I'll tell you. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
No, I was going to just kind of jump in, piggyback on it, that there's a lot of stuff really interesting stuff happening in this whole AI voice, AI chat kind of space that, I touched on this in a Substack a few weeks ago, that I'm looking into building out what they call an AI employee. So all of these different, like, AI voice and chat functionalities that you can use to like do things in your business so that you don't have to do it yourself. Like they all work off of some sort of a software platform, right? So the one that I'm working on now is Go High Level, and High Level has a whole functionality they call AI Employee that's got voice AI and chat AI and
You were telling, yeah.
There's a whole suite of things that it can do. But the thing that is really interesting to me is that there are people who are using it to do outbound calling and booking appointments. So generating leads and putting leads on the calendar of the sales team using voice AI bots.
How does that work? I don't understand.
You train it. You train this thing. It sounds like a person when you're on the phone with it, and it's quick, it's fast, it knows how to answer questions because it's got a whole language learning model that it's been built on, whatever the underlying tech is that their whole, AI system is built on, which I don't know what it is. I can figure it out probably, but I've seen some really compelling examples, people who have done it recently. And so I'm looking into that, but I think this is, there's an opportunity there that I don't know how long that lasts before it's just floods the market. And then it's like, everyone knows that that's a thing, but it's pretty cool.
The way I view it too, for a lot of it, for outbound sales calls, is a little different. But for the use case that I mentioned, I will just have to be very. We're just gonna be very open that it is AI
Yeah.
based and
Sure.
how it was built and why it's cool. The
Yeah.
same thing happened. I remember when first chatbots started coming up, like when mini chat burst onto the scene 6-7 years ago.
Right.
There are a lot of people just started calling their chat agents just something bot, so people knew.
Right.
But yeah, that part is crazy. Like the voice AI stuff and trying to get
Yep.
doing that kind of thing. Brennan Burchard's doing something that I think is pretty cool with it too. There's his website now redirects to something called Brennan.ai, and you can get, I think you have to pay for it eventually, but there's a chat interface.
Mhm.
You can call it or you can use it on your computer and it will for coaching. And I think eventually he's charging for it. You know what I mean? I don't know exactly how that works with it, but because I've looked at it for just a few seconds.
Yeah.
But yeah, so people are doing that even for other use cases. But the sales thing is wild. It seems like it'd be difficult to train it to do that, but I know that I'm sure people are doing it.
I don't know. I can't say whether it's difficult or not. Obviously, there's some moving parts to creating a system that does that, but you think about it, for some people, it's not gonna, that's not the right thing to be doing, right? But there's some businesses, let's say, I don't know, I'm just gonna bring a financial advisor, for example. If you can create a system like that where it's placing outbound calls off of lead lists to call people and make some sort of a offer to review their 401k and set up a meeting, there's all
Yeah.
sorts of examples like that, and more of B2C arenas where it could be calling up to be oh, do I'm working with such and such HVAC company. Do you guys need we're running a special right now, 50% off our service if when's the last time you had somebody out to tune up your furnace? Just stuff like that.
And even answering phone calls, customer service calls too, would be a cool use case for it.
Yes.
Think about now, you're so used to calling places and it being a menu.
That's
Thank you for calling Walgreens Pharmacy. That kind of thing. If
So
now you
there
could
is-
have somebody that does exactly that, but doesn't annoy you by making you listen to everything, it's yeah, thank you for calling so business.
That's the
What's up?
main use case that they're promoting for around the voice AI right now within high level, is exactly that. So there was one a demo that I listened to this morning that was a tree service company, and the AI is taking inbound calls, or anytime a customer calls, it's handling the lead on the phone to book a time for somebody to come out. And they were the person on the other end of the call was asking questions I don't know. I just kind of want to get a frame, reference of what's this really going to cost? And the thing was answering the questions in a very appropriate manner. It was pretty cool. Yeah. Well, I'm interested, Ryan. Keep us posted on how that AI bot stuff goes, because that's really nice, man. And I'm really,
currently.
I'm
Go
proud
ahead.
of. I was going to say, I'm proud of. You're really on the cutting edge of this stuff right now. You're really staying sharp with all this stuff.
Trying to.
Well, one question for you, buddy. So when you took all these, I think you said 8 tests, did you then manually put the 8 tests into AI, or were these tools connected?
I manually did them. So usually when you take a test like that, they'll give you a PDF report that'll be, or on certain of them that didn't, because I only paid for a couple things. Some of them, there's a lot of free versions. I did a lot of research figuring out what are good versions of things. Also, if you take a free version of something that doesn't give you a full report, AI knows all of the report data, type stuff that it does, because people have done, it's public. People talk about it. There's blogs and blogs and blogs about Enneagram and this and that. It can help you fill in a full report. But either way, mine, I got a PDF pretty much for all of them. And then I plugged them in. I was like, look, I took these 8 assessments. Here's my goal of what I want this thing to do. like first, and I tested it like, tell me about myself, like first to see how I would do. Like, now here's my goal of what I want to create. Like, what are the best steps to do that? And it told me like, here's probably what you should do. But yeah, so I plugged them in, and then I had it create the narrative document for me. That's long. And because I really didn't want it to just reference like, well, this test said that this, because I was like, I don't give a shit about that.
No,
I want it to be combined properly, where it makes connections of like, well, out of these 8 tests, 7 of them make you seem this way, so that's probably accurate. So let's put, that kind of thing. And that's why I did it the way I did. But it's cool. Like, yeah, and I got to figure out. I'm currently stress testing it with questions to see, and I haven't sat down. I really wanted to like ask questions and be like, here's how I would answer that question versus how will this thing answer that question, or how will it tell me I would answer it. I gotta to see how close it gets. But so I gotta do that first. But I'm trying to use this, like we mentioned earlier, like I needed to break out of like my habit of like, I wasn't working as much for a while on purpose because I'd worked a ton, and I was like, I need to, take it easy for a little bit. Now, like what I'm using it, one of the main things I'm gonna use it for is when I have an opportunity come forward of like someone's like, hey, can you help me with this? I can evaluate based on what my existing workload and how I work and who that person is, if I have any information on them, especially if they're like public and they talk a lot on videos and stuff. I can say like, well, is this a good fit? And here's another good use case for it. Oh, I should have brought this up. This is the best use case for it for like anyone that's watching. So what I wanted to figure out is there are handfuls of people that I work with really, really well. And like, I was like, so these tests, a lot of them are designed for companies to have their employees do, so they can figure out like what types of people should work with them, where should they fit in my company. So it's all built for that. So what I'm trying to do is like, I'm going to feed it my website copy. And so I'm going to say like, who's the perfect person for Ryan Farrell to work with, whether that's a client or whether that's anything. Who's the perfect person for me to work with? Great. Review my website copy, review this copy, and make it fit how they would like to be, make it be communicated to attract more of them. So that way it's not going to like push people off. Right. But instead of writing like how I would write, which might be appealing for somebody who is just like me, I'm going to have the website copy written to attract the types of people that I would work best with. And, in theory, right now, if you have so I don't have I'm not like promoting myself aggressively or anything, so it's not a big deal. But if you did have something that you could get it, you did have a significant amount of traffic coming, you're putting together a campaign, and if you can figure out like these are the exact types of clients, personalities that I work with best, based on my personality, you can tailor your marketing towards those people, and in theory, this is untested, attract more of them, and then you have more like solid partnerships that you're starting on the round foot. So like, I'm not going to work well with someone who's super abrasive and talks, and talks down to people. I'm just not going to. Some people like that pushes them, and they're good under that scenario, that's not a big deal for them. And it would be, you could, so we'll see.
It could be something you could use to even teach other companies to do exactly what you're doing as well. I don't know if that's part of your model, but that might be good for companies because, I think that stuff is going to be over the heads of many people that you'll be able to, educate them on it. Certainly some of it's over my head as well. So yeah, it'd be great. No, you could teach that to other companies. I think.
Yeah, I really want.
Are you?
Maybe. I'm finishing it up right now, but I want to eventually create a public one and then have people that, something that can be public that people can reach out to and ask questions, mainly just because I want to test it with strangers too. And I want to be able to send this to people and be like, see, does this seem like me? But I want to try to find something to act exactly like me, to be my own personal, therapist, I guess, business coach, life coach, whatever, and hopefully a marketing coach, and hopefully it works. I don't know though, I think it'll be really valuable. I think for a certain use case it'll work, but I do think being able to have this information easily accessible is really valuable, and it cuts I think the personality test cut down some of the training time. You could just type who you are. It also cuts my bias out of it. Like, I'm not going to know what all my weak spots are potentially.
Another cool thing that you could do as part of it when you start talking about like use this data to build your website in a way that the copy speaks to the right kind of person. Like you could also incorporate like interviews with clients, past clients of yours, like interview them, or do a survey or a study. Like we worked with a branding agency years ago with linked selling, and part of that process was they contacted a bunch of our clients and interviewed them to get an understanding of how those clients viewed our company. What did they say about us? What did they say our strengths and weaknesses were? And like you could utilize all that data, upload that into the model as well.
Yeah, I think it'd be better.
Wow.
Like someone like you, Josh, this would be relatively, you've written so much copy, or you've had copy written like on your behalf to sound like you.
Yeah.
And you have so much of your background put in video and script and paper,
Right.
you could do that. And then, you could interview clients that you like. You could potentially, if you're a bigger brand and have some budget, and if you have like clients, like they were perfect for me, you could ask them to, if they've taken these assessments or ask them to do it for you.
Sure.
That kind of thing. But I think the interview thing is a great idea, because anything, especially if you want to do the voice AI thing too, anything that's got you speaking, like the amount of like hours of video of you out there talking, whether that's on a video of you like staring and focused, or just a webinar of you, or these or a webinar of you talking casually, you could probably create a Josh Turner sounding thing that sounds exactly like you.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. But do we even have a lot of that stuff, like from the events, like Ascend and stuff? Are those videos do they exist anywhere?
They do somewhere. Well, they're on. They'll be in, unless they were
VHS.
Unless they were deleted. But like
in one of the old Drive files or something, folders.
They'll be in Vimeo, or some of them will be online. But like your traffic and conversion stuff is on YouTube, I think.
Yeah, that's true.
You must have the old VHSs of you doing that,
yes.
right?
Yeah, it is. Yes. Old VHS, little DVD.
Old home movies of my hockey games when I was like 10 years old. Tim, let's talk about the Hives. You sent me this song the other day, and I thought it was pretty cool.
I love this band. Are you guys familiar with the Hives from Sweden?
I am.
Yes.
Not very familiar, but yeah, I know who they are.
I was zoned out. I don't have that link.
This crazy.
That's all right.
They're actually finally playing in town in September, so I want to go see them. But they all dress completely alike. It's absolutely. I've watched some of their live footage, and it is literally as insane as any show could be as far as audience participation. You'll see it when you show the video in a second ride. They have all these like matching outfits. The singers like riding the surfing in the crowd while he's singing, and the guy's like 50 years old, by the way, doing this. So it's just complete chaos in a good way, straight up rock and roll. And I thought I would share, and I'm being sarcastic right now, these inspiring lyrics to the beginning of the song that I have pulled up, and I'll just say it in a conversational way. So this is a new song by the Hives, and it's called Enough is Enough. And I'll just read you the first verse for the fun of it to kind of, lighten people up on this beautiful day. Starts out with, everyone's a little fucking bitch. I'm getting sick and tired of this. Went to the doctor because I was sick of everybody's bullshit.
That's the
and
way.
I ain't listening.
When I heard that lyric, I thought that's how I feel about these people on CNBC.
There you go. So just a catchy rock and roll song. Please play it. This is like their 15th album, probably.
Everyone's a little fucking bitch, and I'm getting
The quality of that video
So
is
there's a-
awesome. Like that's like a little movie.
Yeah. It's just catchy rock and roll, and I love these guys, and they're huge in Europe. I mean, they play big venues out there, and here they're going to play like 1,000-person club only, headlining in America. So a lot different over here, but they've played with like the Stones and other bands like that. So they've had some major
Yeah,
gigs.
you know that
but-
song would be explosive live. I mean, with that first line, I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not
so
sure I've
that'd be
ever heard a
fun.
better first line of a song.
It's a little bit heartwarming, isn't it? Kind of something you could sing to your babies, as you're putting them to sleep.
I think everyone can relate to that, though. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, that's a good one. Who did you see recently, Tim? That you told me you went to see?
I saw Rise Against last week, and
Yeah.
oh God, my love for that band just grows and grows.
Easy.
He's just, I can't say enough about them live. They've been around, by the way. This is their 25th anniversary as a band, and I think the Hives are almost the exact same place, 25 years as well.
Yeah.
So we got going to see tomorrow night. Refused, a really loud
Wow.
punk band as well.
Now, is Rise
At a little
Against
club.
playing like theaters, like 2,000 seat venues kind of thing?
So they would normally, play like those 2,000 to 3,000 seat venues, unless they're in the Midwest, probably a little bit more because they're from Chicago. They are doing a co-headlining with Papa Roach. So they actually
Wow.
had, keep in mind, Papa Roach is from the Sacramento area, but they still had like 14,000 people at the show.
I haven't
It
heard
was
someone say the words Papa Roach in forever, man.
I know. That shocked me to hear that.
It was like a jump scare almost.
I couldn't believe they're playing. So they played where the Sacramento Kings played. I was like, how are they playing this venue? And sure enough, man, it was packed except the very, very high up, in the
What was
back.
Papa Roach's
That
big
was
song?
it.
Big songs again? Like, what's their big one? I know it.
So the album says, cut my life
Oh,
into
yeah.
pieces. What was that song called?
It just reminds me of
I was
playing
around.
video games in college because we had to go to friends' houses and like
Yeah.
get drunk and smoke and then put on Papa Roach super loud with the lights off and play Call of Duty because we thought it was hilarious. And
Oh
to be
my
super loud like that,
Wow.
that's cool.
The only thing is, their singer is just kind of, he's not a bad guy or whatever, but he's one of those singers live that has to tell the crowd every minute, you guys are fucking crazy. And I hate that shit. So, so that turned me off. So I stayed for all of Rise Against, half of Papa Roach, and a nice, just so you know, for our little group here, coming up in 2 weeks, 2 weeks from this Friday, the one, the only Fantastic Negrito will be back in
Wow.
town.
Yeah.
I'll be seeing him again. Very, very
Memory serves,
exciting.
Fantastic Negrito was one of the first features on our show a year ago.
Yeah.
It was. I actually played his new record, Josh, when Ryan and I did a show in December when you were taking baby time. So you missed that
Yeah.
one. I'll send you the track.
That's great.
Here's an example of what Tim was talking about with the Papa Roach singer. I feel like that's a perfect example. I like put Papa Roach. I was like, what do these guys look like now? And the guy screaming that you guys are fucking crazy. That's exactly what that guy would look like.
Well,
Yeah, Jacoby.
I'm good for them that they're still out there playing, though. It's hard to do that.
I was surprised. I was like, well, I'll watch him because I'm in the arena. I strictly went for Rise Against. I ended up staying for over an hour. I was like, you know what? They sound pretty good. And then, I left.
Now, I shared with you that Coheed and Cambria album recently, and I know they're not your favorite band in the world, but I have listened to it now a couple times and think it's really good front to back. So if you haven't given it an honest listen, that's my recommendation.
I used to love Coheed and Cambria. I'm gonna check that out.
I like their music a lot, and the singer just hasn't grown on me enough, but I do like them musically. I mean, there's almost like a hint of Rush or something like that, who I'm a huge fan of. So
I watched.
I'm not very
Okay.
well versed in their music, but the newest album popped up on my Spotify. I gave it a listen, and I was like, this is pretty good.
I watched Coheed and Cambria play a concert with Fall Out Boy when I was like 16.
Yeah.
This is not, if any kids are listening, don't do this, but just absolutely like I smashed it like a 44-ounce like soda and like Captain Morgan. Like it was like root beer and Captain Morgan because I worked at McDonald's at the time. And I filled this whole thing up and I filled like half and half. And I
Oh.
barely remember that show, but I remember it was the best.
22 ounces.
It was like, no,
22 ounces of Captain Morgan is what you're
maybe not
claiming?
exactly that, but it was a lot, dude. And I remember, and I was like 16. I remember, like, I just don't remember a whole lot of that show, but I just remember it was the most fun.
Yeah.
You were the Fallout boy.
Yeah,
Apparently.
I did at the time. Fall Boy was my.
You know, as you mature, Josh and I would recommend at shows just, you know, a little bit of tequila shots followed by a Chardonnay is always a personal recommendation.
Yeah, when I was
as
17, I
well.
was
That
taking
we-
Chardonnay. I was drinking Chardonnay and like a nice crisp rosé. But before
Well,
that, I was just
we're bringing that back.
yeah.
Yeah.
Or we could just bring back just
Absolutely.
drinking lukewarm glasses of plastic cups of Captain Morgan and root beer too.
Actually, I'll have to show the next
Man,
time.
that's
This is a fun tip for concerts now. They have these little plastic blow-up bottles. You actually load them up with a funnel, and you can get 8 ounces, so 8 shots, if you will. Put them right in my pocket. Walk right in, no issues
I
whatsoever.
thought you were gonna say butt crack for a
Hypothetical.
second. You like
So
lean
did I.
back. I thought you were gonna say you slide it between my cheeks.
Yeah.
No, right in the pocket.
And
Right
share
in the
with your
pocket. It's just a
friends.
thin piece of plastic. Yeah, they're one. You can get them on Amazon. You get like like 20 of them for like $10 or something.
Yeah.
That's great.
I mean,
so
my days of sneaking alcohol into concerts is probably over, but there's
not if you've seen those prices at the concerts and you want a couple of drinks. I mean, it's a typical beer at a show now is 16 to 20 freaking dollars. You know, I mean, that's if you think about that for a case, it's like a $300 case of beer.
Yeah.
You know.
That's true. You know, you pay the piper though. When you go to the concert and you're like, oh, let's get a glass of Chardonnay and a shot of tequila. Oh, I'll go get it for us. Don't worry about it. And you're up there and they're like $130.
Right. This is why I started sneaking just occasionally.
Yeah, good times. So, guys, I don't have any wine feature for today, unfortunately. But it's been another good show. I appreciate you guys being here, and I think that's it for today. You guys got anything else?
No, I think that's it. Get out, enjoy the springtime wherever you are. It's got to be getting nice in every part. You guys getting nice in St.
In
In
Louis?
between
Yeah.
tornadoes. In
Well,
between
nice.
tornadoes.
Yeah.
In between tornadoes, okay.
Then
Well,
the weather here's been insane.
Yeah.
Like Josh, has it felt equally wild to you? Like, what the hell is going on?
Well, the weather, yeah, it's a pain in the butt. It really is. And then it's not a good time to have real estate investments, rental properties, anything like that. It's like when there's like 8 inches of rain in one day, you're like, oh Jesus, what's going to happen now? My boat dock floated away the other day. I had to go out there and get it back in and reattach it to the wall.
Oh no.
the new dock you just built?
Yeah, it
floated
came
away?
up off the brackets because the lake rose really quickly from the flooding, and the spillway couldn't keep up with it. And so I gotta go in there. There's these brackets that hold the dock onto the seawall. And long story short, I'm gonna need to weld those together so that it can't go anywhere next time.
Yeah, put some weird cap
Wow.
type thing on it.
My neighbor sent me a picture Saturday morning, and it's like, I'm sorry, every time I have to text you, it's bad news, but here's a picture of your boat and your dock floating out in the middle of the lake.
So how did you get to it? Did you swim or did you?
I got my waders on and I went out there, and it was like just barely not deep enough that I could get to it. And like one of the posts on that holds the dock up had like caught on something. So it was kind of like out there, like kind of held in place for a little while. So I got there in time that it was like salvageable basically.
There's not by any chance videos of you doing this?
I can send you a couple pictures though.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Seriously.
The craziest thing we've had
It wasn't as bad as it sounds. Like I was able to handle it, but it was still shitty.
The craziest weather thing we had is we had a couple tornadoes that went right by our house, but also like the hail like a month ago, whatever that first wave of tornado stuff was crazy. Like I could within maybe a 3-minute period, everything I could see in my backyard was completely white with ice. Like, and I saw pictures of people.
Wow.
It was there for more than a day in like 60-degree weather. Like, it was like a complete snowstorm of just ice balls in
Sure.
4 or 5 minutes.
Yep.
Wow.
It was kind of
Yeah.
badass. It was other than holes getting
Well,
busted through all a bunch of things, but like it was kind of badass. Like
That weather be crazy.
Please
weather be
stay safe, my Midwest friends. Yeah,
Yes.
please.
All right, guys.